Welcome back. Man, I am so angry. I recorded a 30-minute video, you know, and I thought I'd published it, but it turns out I deleted it by mistake. Man. But anyway, I'll try again. So, man, so basically in this video, man, it's going to be titled Putting Africa on a Path of Greatness. Building Africa for Africa. That's what we need to do, you know? Like I was saying in the past video, people in the last video, you talk to Africans and no one wants to rebuild it. People want to, people get the first chance that they get to leave the country, to leave their country or their continent, they leave, gone, and they don't come back. You have this knowledge that you've acquired, all this exposure that you've got from New York or wherever you went, London, Germany, wherever you went, exposure. You've been opened up to the world. The next thing to do after that was to come back home and share it with Zimbabwe, share it with Nigeria, share it with your community in the form of business, in the form of ideas. Because you see, that's what it is. Access, it's all about access, exposure to something, exposure to information. And it's not information that you knew, exposure to information that you don't know. That is what builds economies. That is why America is where it is today. That's why Europe is where it is today. That's why China is where it is today. Because they figured it out. And Africa's trailing behind. You see, the people who are always, it's all about curiosity. I said we're trying to build Africa. So we're trying to put Africa on a path of greatness. A path. You see, it's a path. It's not a destination. It's a path. It's a continuous improvement. To be in this path, to be in a path of something, you need to have a vision of something. To have a vision of something, you need to have curiosity about something. And that curiosity allows you to question, ask new questions. What is out there? How is it that we're so poor? How is it that we're always backwards? How is it we are following behind? How is it that we are treated this way? That's the question we're asking now. This is the first stage, and it's good that we're talking like this. Back in the 1600s, explorers in Europe, Christopher Columbus and some people before him, they were sitting there in Europe saying, what else is there? People used to think the world was flat. What else is there, I know, yes, people have told us the world is flat, but I want to go to the end, and see for myself. And they built tools. They knew that they couldn't just run onto the water. They had to build tools to go across the water. Tried a few times, they sunk until they built a strong enough ship. You see, it's not because they wanted to build a ship. It's because they wanted to explore. See, exploration, that kind of the mindset of exploration. Actually, I'm about to change the name of this video. It's going to be called Putting Africa on a Path of Greatness, but the power of curiosity in the African mind. Curiosity. You need to have a vision, a long-term vision, big vision. But the thing about a vision is that your vision and where you are, there's a big ass gap, The vision and the reality, they don't meet. There's a gap there. But you need to build tools that allow you to move towards your vision. You see? Columbus, his vision was what else is out there. He knew there was something out there. Or at least he wanted to find out what's out there. That was the vision. But how do you get to that goal? They built tools. They built ships. How do we protect ourselves if something happens? Because back in those days, there was war everywhere. How do we protect ourselves? They built weapons. Powerful weapons. You see? Vision leads you to create tools. Powerful tools. And when those tools were created, we have ships now. Those ships were not just being used now for exploration, they're now being used to transport goods in the future. You see? The horse was an animal just moving in the forest, but someone had a vision. Say, look, man, I want to move this to there. I could use that thing, that horse thing, to carry my stuff. Fast forward a few centuries later, someone was like, yo, man, this thing is very inefficient. You know, it gets tired, it ages, and it dies, and it needs to be fed. I need something stronger that doesn't need to be fed. Or something to pull, and it's limited. Space storage. Said, let me build a wheel. A wheel. Fast forward a few years later, we can't keep having horses moving this thing. We need something automatic, something more autonomous. They built a train. Boats were now powered by engines because of a vision. Vision for something. What is Africa seeing? You ask me, there's nothing being produced in Africa right now. Zimbabwe, for example, imports $7 billion. Sorry, it imports $9 billion of goods. And guess how much it exports? It exports $6 billion. So we bring in $9 billion of goods. So we spend $9 billion. And we export $6 billion. You do the math. The money that we're receiving is $6 billion. The money that's going out is $9 billion. That's a trade deficit of a negative $3 billion. Over time, that means that every year we're losing money. You see? You go to Zimbabwe right now, cash crisis. Because there are no entrepreneurs with visions. There are no artists with visions. Or at least they're there, but they're not doing something. Or if they're trying to do it, there's not an environment for them to flourish. But that's the thing. Africa needs to start, we need to pick a vision for ourselves and move towards it and stick with it. The thing is, we don't stick. We get nervous, we get desperate. We get desperate. That's the problem. Information is the power to everything. Information is the power to everything. You read books. Stop reading Harry Potter books. Stop reading, all these Tom Dickey books, man. Read books, technical books that teach you how things work. No one can stop you from learning about economics anymore. The white people, this, that. Man, I've met some nice white people out here. Yes, there are racist people here, but the fact is no one stops you. It's no longer like back in the day. That's the thing. Access to information is what hinders people from moving forward. We were so comfortable in Africa, we're so comfortable sitting back, subsistence living, eating our fish, going to the river, boom, boom, boom. We didn't think about what else was out there. And guess what? You don't explore the world, someone will explore you. And that word is called exploit. You will be exploited. If you don't explore the world, you will be exploited. We don't widen your horizons, you will be exploited. You think people, see, that's how you know our mind is short term. You think people enslaved us for the fact of enslaving us. The name of the game is capitalism. The name of the game is production of goods. They needed to produce goods at a cheaper cost. How could you do that? Increase productivity and lower. What's lowering cost? How is that possible? Use someone who has no idea. Exploit. They went around the world using Indians, blacks, Irish people. Took us all. Took them to the States. And they came and they colonized Africa. In the name of production. Used us to produce goods and services at a very low cost. Shipping them back there to build industries. We didn't build those industries. We were used to build industries. They used us. Our labor. Don't ever say that if it wasn't for us, we couldn't have. No, they would have reached it. Because they had the idea. The one with the idea is the one who controls the resource. The one who has the idea about where to go in the future is the one who controls all the money, who controls all the power. People, you hear in the States, all these people complaining, oh, the rich, the 1%, the 10%. Listen, that's how the economy works. How many of those people you hear complaining about the rich, the 10% getting richer, are actually innovating anything? That one person, Sam, for example, Sam Walton in the 70s, 60s, he invented a business, a small business, with a vision to make it a big business that provided cheap goods. That business is now called Walmart. Walmart today employs 2 million people worldwide. 2 million people. One person. Of course, now his kids have taken over. One person. Guess how much Walmart makes? $400 billion a year. $400 billion a year. One person. He's employing 2 million people. That is why. You do the math. For one person, 1 out of 2 million people. Do the math. That is why he's in 1%. So don't sit there and just be complaining and just sitting there and be comfortable. Information and ideas are what pulls economies. But in Africa, we don't have people like Sam Walton who are able to pull the economy. That 1% who pull the economy. We need people with ideas. People who are willing to expand their horizons on behalf of society, on behalf of the continent. People who are scientists, people who are artists, people who are going to build industries. We have artists in Africa. We have footballers in Africa. We have, business people in Africa. We have accountants. We have all these things. But where are we putting them to use? They're all being shipped abroad to Europe to sell themselves cheap, building industries there. Why can't we have our own Hollywood? Why can't we have our own Wall Street? Of course, I'm not saying let's build our own Wall Street. I'm saying let's build something new. Why can't we have our own systems out, designed by us, for us, not designed in Europe? We use the same laws. We use the same legal systems. We use the same infrastructure design. We drive on the left like the British do. We use common law. We use everything that they use over there. Is there not a more efficient system? There is. There are still secrets out there in the world. And Africa needs to step up and contribute. That's what globalization is all about. People move around the world, in search of value. You go to China to produce cheap. China produces for the world. The US designs for the world. Europe does whatever it does. South America gives us its resources. And things move. What's Africa doing besides being exploited for its gold, diamonds? We need to start building stuff, building infrastructure, building airplanes, building cars of the next generation, flying cars. You see, this business of copying whatever's working anywhere else doesn't work. You can't gain value by copying. You have to produce something new. That's how you demand a premium. If I copy what they're doing in the States and I expect to get a premium from that, I expect to make the same money as Bill Gates and Elon Musk, they'll tell me no. Why should I come to you when Elon Musk is already doing it? When Bill Gates is doing it? When Apple is already doing it? So we need to start our own companies, our own innovative companies that are producing next level shit. We need to be the ones going to space. Huh? We don't have to go through NASA. We don't need to go through anyone. We have to build our own technologies, and the world has to come to us and talk to us, debate with us, sit with us on the same level table. When Africa goes to Europe at the G20, or when Africa goes to whatever, the global economic forums, it's not a level playing field. We go there and they're talking down to us. Because how can they talk up to us? How can they talk straightforward with us? What else are we doing? We need to start building Africa and putting it on a path of greatness. How do you put Africa on a path of greatness? We need to start building businesses. Some of you don't know how businesses work. Let me tell you how money works. That thing called money, it's a paper. It's a receipt. You know what a receipt is? It's an account of value. I'm going to do the next video. It's going to be talking about money. What is money? Money is an account of value. Anything can be money as long as we agree on it. It's a unit of value. How does the money system work? You've seen it work in the States and you've seen it not work in some parts of the world. And inflation goes crazy and there's nothing going on in there. Let me tell you how it works. Anytime you produce something of value, or anytime you produce new output or something new out of the ground, for example, if we grow crops, 1 hectare of crops, that's new value in the community, in the society. How do we account for that? We print a new piece of paper that tells us that we have now printed $25 of crops, of maize, of corn, and that money is pushed into the society. It goes to the person who has just produced that. Here, Mr. Sir, you've produced corn. Here it is. That's $25 now circulating. You can't just print out $25 without producing something. You see? Now, how does America keep growing to trillions and trillions of dollars? A country just founded a few hundred years ago, few centuries ago. Output. Remember I said it's all in the name of production. Each year America has continuously pushed to increase its production to the point where it behemoths countries that have been in existence for thousands of years because of production. Africa will start to grow its economy, its money resource, its money, what's that word? Whatever. Its money account. Its account of money will grow when we start producing. Producing what? We don't want to just be producing small amounts of things. We want to produce things that are valuable. The States has invented many things. Computers, airplanes, microchips, food, machinery, patents on how systems work, designs for the modern machinery that we use today, cars, oil, petrol, uses of petrol, all these things. You add up all these things and their impact, and you add them up, you get a value that matches the US economy, is economy. Something like 18 to 20 trillion. All that stuff adds up, or even more, because these systems are now global now. So it'll probably add up to the global economy. When you create something that's valuable, you are now able to print money. But guess what? Africa doesn't produce. Africa doesn't create its own food. Africa imports food from China. Africa imports clothes from China. Africa imports devices from the States. We import whatever from Europe. You see? That right there. Zimbabwe, I'll give an example. Imports $9 billion. I think I said this. $9 billion of goods. Imports, brings in $9 billion. That's inflow. We buy $9 billion of something. And how much do we export? How much do we export that we make ourselves? 6 billion. You see? 6 billion is income, 9 billion is out. Sorry, 6 billion is the income and 9 billion is the outflow. So if we say income minus outflow, we should get a result. Income, 6 billion minus the 9 billion, we get a negative $3 billion. We're losing $3 billion a year. You go to Zimbabwe right now, type it in as I speak. You will find out that there's a cash crisis. There's no money. That happens because there is no creation of new value. We're a net importer of goods. We need to start producing. We need to start coming up with new ideas. Why can we not produce? Those are the questions we need to start asking. Start jumping over those limits in our minds. We clearly don't know the answers. So we need to start looking for them. We have limits. Instead of running to America, sit there and face your limits and say, look, we don't know how to produce. We do not know why we don't have electricity. We do not know why we have poor connectivity. poor transport, poor living conditions. What can we do? What else is out there? How is the world doing it? That's how you approach the world. Not, oh, the States has better systems, let's run there. What is that? Running away. By the end of the decade, by the end of the century, there'll be no one living in Africa because everyone would have ran off, and the ones remaining would have died of poverty because the systems would have become so obsolete, they become a harm to society. How would they become a harm to society? Right now in Zimbabwe, sewages are exploding in Chitungwiza. Specifically, there is a place where the sewages explode, and one kid, I heard there was a story in the newspaper, a kid actually drowned in the sewage, fell in and drowned. Because the systems have become so obsolete, the pipes are exploding. One lady was fighting with the conductor, bus conductor, over a change. And there was an open piece, there was an open ditch right next to the road with electric wires that were exposed. The people who were building there, they just left it open. Just left it. They fought, and the lady fell inside with the guy, and they died there. They got electrocuted and died. You see? The facilities, the systems, they don't work. We need newer systems. We need a new revamp, a new energy, a fiery energy, a new vision for Africa to say, Africa shall no longer be at the bottom. Africa shall be at the top. You see, when I was in my class here in Canada, I was number one in every class. And people used to wonder, how does he do this? No white person, no Chinese, no black person was on top of me. I knew my stuff. Before I started school, I had read every book. I'd read my economics, I'd read my math, I'd read my accounting, and I went into class knowing ahead of time that I shall be number one. And I became number one. And guess what? No one pushed me down. No one kept me from flourishing. No, the teachers loved me. All my teachers were white. They loved me because I was smart. Because I enjoyed being smart. I had ideas. I didn't just speak about what's in the book. I had contrarian ideas. I thought outside the box. That is how the world works today. You think outside the box today, people are willing to work with you. Wall Street, those Wall Street people, they don't care about racism. They don't give a shit about race and all that crap y'all be arguing about. They care about ideas. Where can I put my dollar and multiply it the most? If you sit there and you can convince them, they'll give you the money. That's what we need to start doing. Creating businesses and ideas that elevate Africa. And once those ideas work in Africa, the world will start looking, noticing, hey, wait a minute. Africa no longer needs us. First aid comes and they see that, hey, what used to be a desert is now a flourishing urban city, employing its own people. There's entertainment services, cinemas, there's industries of entertainment. There's fun, tourism. People of Africa enjoying their own continent, moving around, going to see the beauty of Africa. You can't even do that. It's so expensive. We have to build our own continent, man. It's up to us. It's up to us. You see, I gave the narrative of Walmart. One person from a village called Sam Walton built a company 40 years ago. That company makes $400 billion today. The African economy has 1.1 billion people and is worth $1 trillion. Yet Texas, a state with 10 million people, has 1.3 trillion. Texas is more powerful than the whole of Africa. What I'm saying is, if one person can create a company that can make half of what the whole continent of Africa can produce, then you're telling me that out of 1 billion people in Africa, we cannot make 100 of these people? 10. Okay, 10. If we had 10 people who thought like Sam Walton, who could create powerful companies like Sam Walton, out of 1 billion people, we focused our attention on just being so successful on this vision and created these 10 people. That means that each of these people could create 400 billion each. That's $4 trillion. We have just multiplied Africa 4 times to a 4 trillion economy. Do you know how many people will move out of poverty? Hmm? Do you know how many people you'd employ? Just 10 people. 400 billion each of them. Out of a billion people, that's not even a percent. That's nothing. It's 0.0000 whatever. You know? But we can't even do that. That's what we need to start doing. America alone has created so many billionaires. Bill Gates, 80 billion. Jeff Bezos, 80 billion. Mark Zuckerberg, 55 billion. Warren Buffett, 70 billion. The Walton family, each of them is worth like 20 billion each. Phil Knight, the Nike guy, 20 billion. Sergey Brin and Larry Page, Google, 20 billion each. That's $40 billion right there. Elon Musk lives in the States now. He was born in Africa though. 13 billion. Peter Thiel, 2 billion. Ah, man, I can keep going. Michael Bloomberg, 20 billion. Michael Dell, 20 billion. Who else? The Uber guy, Travis Kalanick, 7 billion. The Snapchat, he's like 26 years old, 7 billion. I can keep going on. You add up all those numbers I just told you, that's 400 billion easy. You add up the top 50 richest Americans, it's $400 billion. 50 people. 50 people. $400 billion. Africa is a billion people. It can't even produce 10. Nonsense. Nonsense. Guys, we need to change our mentality, our mindset. Invest in Africa. Build Africa. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. Some people won't make it, but what matters is passing on that baton of experience. People will sit and learn from our failures, and they'll innovate on top of them to say, oh, our ancestors tried to do this and they failed. Let's go this way. But when we don't do anything, we're not handing over anything. Do you know how long it takes the average person to get a house, their own car? By the time they get their own house, the rest of the world has already elapsed them. You know, it's like a race, and each generation is running to pass the baton of wealth onto the next one. In Africa, that has failed to even pass the baton on. We're going backwards. Each time we're waiting to have the baton, each generation is waiting to receive the baton. But you know, when Europe receives its baton, it runs. Asia receives its baton, it runs. America runs. But Africa, the baton doesn't make it to us. So now we have to run backwards to go and pick it up. You see? We're running back to fix the economy instead of running forward to grow the economy. We need to stop that shit now. Build and run with the economy. I'm gonna leave these videos here. You know, I know a few people are gonna watch them. It's not gonna be big, but one person, change that one person, he'll tell another and he'll tell another. We don't need millions of people. All we need is 10, 20 people who are serious about doing this. Fuck all that politics shit, man. I'm scared of that stuff. I'm staying out of that. But I'm telling you, business can change things. Because entrepreneurs are what build the world. Before governments and all these things, capitalism existed. Governments were formed to manage resources and allocation of resources. You know? So don't blame them. Blame the people who are supposed to be creating opportunities. Entrepreneurs are the ones who go and build roads, who go and build businesses that employ people. So if there's no one creating ideas, creating opportunities for people to be employed, then how is the government going to earn tax revenue? Tax revenue is the number one revenue for government. If there's nothing like that, where are they going to get the money? Now you want them to get involved. It's like telling a tennis player to be a football player. Or it's like telling a turtle to go climb, to go and be it, to go and run a race with a rabbit. It can't do that. Telling an elephant to climb a tree. Allocating the wrong people in the wrong spots. It's all about allocation of resources so that we can have effective production, effective productivity and efficiency. We're not doing that. We're not allocating resources where they're supposed to be. Resources in terms of people, minds, ideas, resources, in terms of money? Where are we investing the money? Where are we investing our knowledge? Where are we investing our ideas, our careers? Where are we investing, you know? So yeah, sorry, it's just a whole pile of ideas, man. There's no structure to what I was talking about, but I hope that this will help someone. And I've shot this on my bed. I've just woke up. As you can see, woke up early. That's the time that I wake up to work on my business. Just start designing, building my app.